We started Cyber Maryland about 6 years ago, and it was an initiative that originally started as a conversation. Maryland is a unique combination of government agencies, businesses, and so forth. We have some unique strengths that are located here, some federal agencies that are very focused on that particular mission, and surrounded by businesses that support those agencies, technology companies that support the agencies, and then a robust infrastructure that supports those groups. So there's a unique focus on cybersecurity that created some strength in that marketplace.
Welcome to the new Cyber Frontier, bringing you the latest news on the local Colorado economy and initiatives that focus on the development of cybersecurity economics. You don't have to be a computer or cybersecurity expert to get plugged in. Your host, Chris Gorog, brings it straightforward, asks the tough questions, and brings the cyber world to a level of understanding for everyone. Chris is personable and opens up with our guests on issues we all would like to see addressed. You can find us on the web at www.newcyberfrontier.com. Now join our host as he introduces the topic for today's new Cyber Frontier.
Today's guest, David Powell from Cyber Maryland, the founder of the Cyber Maryland efforts, and also a member of the Cyber Resilience Institute here in Colorado Springs. And we'll let David give his own intro and a background. But David, welcome today. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Chris. I'm always happy to speak to anyone in Colorado Springs. We've been coming out there for many years and love the cyber community in Colorado Springs. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you do have an event coming up here in Colorado Springs that you've been doing yearly, correct?
That is correct. And we've been working together with a number of groups there since, I guess, way back in the year 2000. So it's called the CSTTF. You can probably imagine we went through many iterations of the name to come up with that creative genius there, the Cybersecurity Training and Technology Forum. And this name has been the handle for the last 6 years. Before that, it was the Federal Information Security Conference, and it was the West Coast companion, or at least the Mountain Region companion to the Federal IA Conference, the Federal Information Assurance Conference out here on the East Coast. And so that was what brought us out there originally in the early 2000s, but it was a sister event or a brother event to what we were doing out here in the East Coast. So we've been out there for many years. It's a great location, and the activity in cyber is not new. Yeah. And we know that, and it's a great community.
Yeah. So about that particular event, give us a little bit of background on how you started, who you focus on, what type of people you address, and how that links to your Cyber Maryland effort.
Well, our company, the parent company, is the Federal Business Council, and we have been producing events in the government space, specifically the government space across the country for the federal government for many, many years. For the past, I'd say, 15 years, the focus has drifted more and more towards information security, information assurance, and then morphed into cybersecurity. So it really put us into position in a number of different marketplaces geographically to really connect with the subject matter, connect with the people that we're talking about, the things that were on their mind, and really get to understand the marketplace. So as we went across the country year after year, it really just sort of evolved. And as we talked to people about what their needs were to connect on the ground, share information, and really get face-to-face to talk about the issues that mattered, these events emerged. So all of them were done with mission-specific outcomes in mind, and here we are in 2016, after a long road of producing many, many events across the country.
We'll be right back with the rest of today's show right after these brief messages from our sponsors. Cyber Resilience Institute helps build strong cyber communities designed to prevent members from attack. Like building a neighborhood watch, it takes coordination and a sharing community to protect our identities and valuables in the virtual world. Typically, we hear that organizations know they need to do something to protect their cyber assets, but don't know where to begin. Let Cyber Resilience Institute help your community create an action plan. Cyber Resilience Institute will build your community or business marketplace so that it is designed to support a collective cyber defense. Contact them for more information at cyberresilienceinstitute.org.
I haven't been to any of your events, but pretty well attended. I saw some pictures of the event. A lot of government, military membership. Is that kind of your main audience there?
It is for a long time, because of our traditional focus on government IT, government cyber. Our attendees tended to be on the military side and on the government side. A lot of the mission-based activities that we work in tend to be in those markets. But as cyber has evolved and the ecosystem has built around those areas, it's moved further and further out. It's brought into not only the civilian agencies, but the commercial markets that surround those groups, and then also moved out into commercial markets, the traditional markets. So banks, insurance, you name it, just every type of business that touches cyber or that has anything that plugs into a network is now part of the ecosystem and in the conversation. So these events have evolved and grown over time to include the entire ecosystem. Some of them are fundamentally based on a specific group. So in Colorado Springs, there tends to be a higher focus or concentration on the various groups in Colorado Springs that have traditionally been involved in cybersecurity, and that would be the military and government market. But it has brought in and been very welcoming to the commercial sector, who has gotten involved in that space over this time.
Yeah.
That we've seen the marketplace evolve. So and you also asked, how does that tap into Cyber Maryland and maybe some of the other marketplace-focused efforts that are going on? And the other evolution that we've seen over time is that a lot of these geographically based communities have emerged. They still connect, or there's a need for them to connect across geography and across communities. So the connection is really what we're seeing now, and the ability for the communities to connect with one another, share information, and share best practices, develop trust across communities is really where we see the marketplace moving at this point.
Yeah. So the Cyber Maryland, when did that start? How long? What kind of involvement do you have? Is it like funded by the state? Is it partnering with universities? What's the breadth of that organization?
Well, it's a great question, and it is an interesting story of creation. We started Cyber Maryland about 6 years ago, and it was an initiative that originally started as a conversation. Maryland is a unique combination of government agencies, businesses, and so forth. We have some unique strengths that are located here, some federal agencies that are very focused on that particular mission, and surrounded by businesses that support those agencies, technology companies that support the agencies, and then a robust infrastructure that supports those groups. So there's a unique focus on cybersecurity that created some strength in that marketplace. Then if you add to that the educational institutions that create new cybersecurity professionals or retrain people to work in the field, there's a robust ecosystem in Maryland that is unique to the industry. So as it didn't always look that cohesive, though. Mm-hmm. 6 years ago, we took a look at the marketplace. The governor at the time said, we have these unique strengths, and we are uniquely positioned to be a leader in cybersecurity. In fact, the truth is we are a leader, but we need to bring the ecosystem together. So the idea was to create a public-private partnership, work together with industry in an all-volunteer way, and pull together a group of industry leaders who had the desire to volunteer their time to really get together and figure out what do we need to talk about, what do we need, what's important to the community, and then pull together once a year, get together face to face, but throughout the year, hold meetings, hold conversations so that the community was forming. It could create a common language, understand who the various groups were, develop trust in the marketplace, in each other, and create a base that would allow a community called Cyber Maryland to grow into the future. Mm-hmm. And then from that, create education opportunities, a connection between school systems, educational programs, jobs, employers, opportunities, and so forth. So a real path for growth, a robust ecosystem that supports itself and each other, and really a whole roadmap for success in the future. As I'm sure any new ecosystem or any new attempt to assemble or organize a group of motivated individuals, it's not the easiest or most natural thing to do because everyone has their own individual priorities. But once we can get those aligned, it does become a fairly powerful program once everyone's moving in the same direction.
Yeah. Now I have heard you say that the biggest thing at first was all talking the same language, and you did briefly say that before. What kind of challenges did you have pulling everything together? And explain what you mean by that when you say just getting everybody to talk and understand the same definitions and language.
Well, initially, one of the challenges that we had was, and this was, let's say, in 2010 and 2011 timeframe, the marketplace in general was not really tuned into cybersecurity as a topic or as a subject area. So it was more of a technical issue and more of a operations center type of an issue. Cybersecurity was about the technology of cybersecurity. People were calling the same device different names and so forth. So there wasn't a common language inside of the industry, let alone what people outside of the cybersecurity world were calling the same thing. So we had a nomenclature problem. Mm-hmm. So step one was really trying to get a common language established so that there was an organizing structure. And we created an organizing tool called the Cyber Maryland Map, where we put any company that wanted to be on the map into a visual representation of all the companies or entities in Maryland that touch cybersecurity. And we created a nomenclature framework based on a paper that NIST had done that organized basically what all of the terminology, each terminology or each item of the cybersecurity nomenclature was, what it mapped to, and so forth, and then ask companies to tell us what they did within that structure. Mm-hmm. And then started to create some sense of the marketplace. And as that map started to define the marketplace, we were able to then look at it, and others could look at it if you were in that, and see how you related to other companies or other entities within the marketplace. And it was able to provide a visual representation of what was happening. So it created some sense, is I guess the answer to your question, and some order to this chaotic Wild West type of a marketplace.
So kind of like who's offering what services, what products, and where they fit into the understanding of what those products are as far as NIST is concerned. That's what you're talking about.
Correct. Using a framework that NIST had, an accepted framework that NIST, and also some terminology from other organizing groups, SANS, or other groups that had suggested certain types of structures for organizing communities.
We'll be right back with the rest of today's show right after these brief messages from our sponsors. Since the year 2000, Bocor has had a history of being a leader in the Colorado cybersecurity community. They have served many front-range customers in both government and commercial industries. Right now, Bocor is looking for qualified cybersecurity professionals and offering competitive salaries, comprehensive benefit packages, tuition support, and exciting career opportunities working with cutting-edge technology. If this sounds like you, and you have a desire to guide our customers through the treacherous cybersecurity landscape, consider joining the Bocor team. Visit us today at www.bocor.com. That's bocor.com. BOECORE.com. Cyber Resilience Institute helps build strong cyber communities designed to prevent members from attack. Like building a neighborhood watch, it takes coordination and a sharing community to protect our identities and valuables in the virtual world. Typically, we hear that organizations know they need to do something to protect their cyber assets, but don't know where to begin. Let Cyber Resilience Institute help your community create an action plan. Cyber Resilience Institute will build your community or business marketplace so that it is designed to support a collective cyber defense. Contact them for more information at cyberresilienceinstitute.org.
So now the Cyber Maryland, I know you have other states involved that have their own cyber effort, and they're linked together with your effort. Explain how that's grown since then, or through the inception of it, to include the other states, and what type of interaction and participation happens between the different states.
Sure. Well, first, once everyone's together on a computer screen, they can see each other, organizationally aligned on a computer screen, virtually. We want to get everyone together face to face. Communities are based on trust. Trust is developed in a face-to-face environment where people get to know each other, they hear each other, and then thought leadership is developed, trust is developed, relationships are formed, and then that becomes the basis of further growth. So we said, let's put an annual event together where the community can come together, talk about the things that are on their mind, the most pressing issues that are facing Cyber Maryland as a unified group, and that's where we'll get together face to face. So that's where Cyber Maryland, the conference, came from, and that's the intent of the conference. And then, so that evolved year after year. So about 3 or 4 years in, other states started to take notice because we would invite other states in to come to the conference. We had last year about 35 states that came out to participate in Cyber Maryland. And they always ask the question about how do we bring this to our state? How do we create a vibrant, community-based information sharing system within our state where people want to be a part of it? And so that's the genesis of other state programs, and that's where that comes from. So in terms of the other states, it's following a similar pattern where the natural assets are identified, and a natural set of strengths always exist within a geography. Getting clear on that, finding leaders who are willing to step up and volunteer to be on a non-proprietary board, help identify the issues that matter to that specific location, and then work in a collaborative way to bring the whole thing together, put together a annual event where everyone gets together face to face, develop trust, and a platform for people to communicate. And then over time, it creates a trust situation where community can develop. And that's the whole model. I mean, there are probably more details involved, but that's the essence of the model.
Yeah. So a lot of what we're doing here is talking about the effort in Colorado Springs and how the governor of Colorado, the mayor of Colorado Springs have both come out and publicly said, we want to make Colorado Springs the cyber capital of the world. So there's a lot of things in play working on that. You said that we've had the cyber events here in Colorado since 2000. So, I mean, there's a long-standing track record here. But what do you see as far as the work you're doing with CRI and what you've done in Cyber Maryland? What are the next steps here? What do we do to progress this, to make this vision in this local community a reality?
Well, I think the important note about what CRI is doing is CRI is taking an extremely non-proprietary view of the challenge and saying, let's build an infrastructure where everyone can participate and in a non-proprietary way build an information sharing cyber resilience program that allows the type of interaction and the type of cyber growth and interconnectivity with other jurisdictions that is meaningful and creates value for the ecosystem. And that type of an approach, I think, is extremely necessary, and that is what attracted me to the CRI effort in the first place. So that's piece number one. What was the second part of your question?
How can we take what you've learned and what you've done with Cyber Maryland and bring that in? And what's the path? What do we?
So this is the easy part. I mentioned earlier, Colorado Springs already has cybersecurity momentum. There's the work that's being done there, the companies that are there, the horsepower that already exists in Colorado Springs is incredible. Mm-hmm. Now it's just a matter of aligning all of the people that are involved in the work along a common street, mm-hmm. and then getting everybody moving in the same direction. So the effort is not build the horsepower. The horsepower is already in the engine. It's getting the wheels aligned and driving and get the steering wheel set up so that everything is moving in the same direction.
Yeah. So and you've heard with CRI, I'm a member of the board there also, and we've had several conversations about my background is in critical infrastructure. I hear so much government information security, in general, information security as the largest cybersecurity driver. How do we integrate? When I look at a background in these millions of devices that are unmanned all over critical infrastructure, distribution, power supply, gas and electric infrastructure with rails, or even traffic and everything. All these devices out there that are unmanned, and a lot of people say the Internet of Things, which is basically just all the little devices that are everywhere, including your handhelds, these critical infrastructure devices. So how does things look different when we start including this bigger picture? Is it really a different piece of it? Or is it, wow, we just have so much, we just need to adopt something we already have done? What's your thoughts about the kind of the changes you see with the Internet of Things?
Yeah, so we see that topic emerging at more and more of the in more and more of the programs that we do. So our subject matter expertise is on gathering the communities around a specific subject matter area. It's not in that specific, so it's not in the subject matter, but gathering the community around a specific subject matter. But we do see that picking up as an area of thought, and I know that there are other communities that are building on that. I think for Colorado Springs, and it's amazing to see the leadership that the governor's taking to put Colorado Springs out there and say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to pursue this. We're taking this direction. So in whatever area the marketplace takes, which it's a constantly evolving marketplace, as we all know, mm-hmm. The threat base, the types of risk, the types of devices that are out there are going to continue to evolve. The brand that the market that Colorado Springs opts to create for itself is, that's kind of the choice that I think it's making right now, and that is to just be the leader in cyber security or in IT security, however it's framed. But that's the approach. But your question on Internet of Things, it is an emerging market. It's coming out. It will be a big, from what everybody is saying, it's going to be a big issue. And I know that there are other marketplaces that are seeking to be the expert in that. But I think overall, there is a huge need. There will be billions of devices that are at risk theoretically, and they'll need to be secured. So, depending on the direction that the city wants to take, or the state wants to take, or the geography wants to take, and the direction that it chooses, that's one potential area that I think is going to be growing like crazy.
Yeah. So you've seen a lot of the, we've been putting forth some thought leadership from CRI about Internet of Things and critical infrastructure and information sharing platforms as well. So as far as you work with CRI, there's quite a few members and thought leadership there, proposing some rather unique solutions that really are thought leading in the marketplace. What do you think about those type of solutions you're seeing in comparison to what you've seen currently in the market and in Cyber Maryland and everything?
I think that the solutions that CRI is putting together and packaging up and proposing are the exact right solution that is needed to take the conversation to the next level, or maybe even 2 levels up. And the reason that I'm saying that is, in my observation, with all of the programs that we operate in across the country, the missing element is the ability to communicate across communities. And the CRI programs that, or that the programs that CRI is working on, are intended to provide that capability in a non-proprietary way and provide a platform for information sharing across communities, and really enable the conversation to happen so that the important work can be done at the community level, which is where cyber is best addressed. But then as solutions are created, or as breakthroughs happen and best practices occur or are learned, they can be shared with other communities so that we're not duplicating effort, and we're actually increasing the velocity of solutions through the pipeline and improving our ability to create security solutions as a nation. So I really do believe that CRI is on the right track and creating some incredible concepts and hopefully ultimately implemented solutions. So very, very pleased with what is happening there.
Yeah, that's good to hear from somebody who has kind of, we'll say, been around the block and seen a lot of the other efforts come to light as myself, and working on a lot of standards groups I have as well. And I think we've finally taken the best of a lot of efforts all over the country, and that's just my opinion, but this local effort has a lot of legs because we're not really under the influence of a lot of big organizations or federal government, even though we have that input. We're really under the influence of building a community that's for everybody.
You're exactly right. And the thing that's exciting too is that the support that the governor is putting into building Colorado Springs as a cyber community, for that effort to be based in Colorado Springs, and for that to become the CRI effort to become a potential platform for all of the communication for other cyber communities across the country. I mean, that would be a landmark type of a program for Colorado Springs, and it would integrate perfectly with all of the other programs that are being developed under the new initiatives out there. So I think it's astute, it's timely, and it's right on track.
That's good to hear from somebody who has been in the effort. Kind of in closing, give us any lessons learned, words of wisdom to say, hey, this effort's in its infancy stage. What does David Powell recommend from his experienced that would help out or we should consider going forward?
Wow. Okay. Well, let's see. I think words have to be translated into deeds. Goals need action. You need a multi-stakeholder approach. Public-private partnerships work as long as people can come in a non-proprietary way and work together without individual objectives getting in the way. And my experience is that the way to make these partnerships work is by each group getting together, understanding each other, developing trust, making sure that everyone is working as a team, that everyone understands the individual objectives of the rest of the group, and collaborating openly. And that's really the only way that these things work. That's really when that doesn't happen, it's the way that we've seen them break down as well. So that's really the majority of the advice that we have, or that I would have. Hope that helps, Chris.
So kind of taking the altruistic approach that you have to work on the better good of everybody so that then we all profit in the end, I guess.
Ultimately, that's right. I don't think there's benefit in the opposite of that, and at least in terms of building a community for the good of growing a marketplace. It doesn't work in the converse or in the inverse of that description that you just gave.
Yeah.
So,
well, definitely you're on board with my thoughts. As I always say, the socio-technological era is really solving problems that combines the human aspect and technology, and it can't be done with an app or a gadget. It has to be a community effort, and like we say, in the altruistic approach. But thanks for coming on today, David, and we definitely learned a lot from your input, and we'll keep reaching out to you as we get further with this effort. Thanks a lot.
well, thanks for having me on the podcast. And if you do get a chance to go to the website for the 6th Annual Cybersecurity Training and Technology Forum, CSTTF 2016. It's right in Colorado Springs at the Doubletree Hilton Hotel, fbcinc.com/CSTTF.
But that is good to know, and definitely recommend that everybody also check out this FBC event. And thanks a lot for joining today. Have a great day.
Thanks, Chris. You too.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of New Cyber Frontier. Remember to get involved. Often we think that someone else will handle privacy and security in the virtual world, but you are the only one truly in command of your virtual fate. Join our mailing list so we can keep you informed of breaking news and new releases. If you have an idea, if you have a question that you would like to hear answered, or if you want to get involved with our efforts, reach out to us at newcyberfrontier.com. We also encourage you to visit our sponsors' links, as they are the ones that really make this show possible. I want to thank each of you for supporting the show, and we look forward to seeing you back for the next episode of New Cyber Frontier.